All right, this TikTok is for the men who have betrayed their partners and are trying to repair and are committed to repair and committed to the relationship. Leslie Wells, Connection Coach. I help individuals heal, thrive, improve, repair, and connect more deeply in their romantic relationships by looking at things through an attachment lens. And because when we are repairing from any type of infidelity or betrayal or break of trust in marriage, that usually ties back to our attachment style. Those things definitely come into play. So I deal with this a lot. So the reason that I'm referring to men here is because most of the individuals that I work with that have betrayed their partner tend to overwhelmingly be more avoidant men. And so women betray too. They have different reasons, their own attachment reasons, a lot of other things that come into play. But overwhelmingly, I see avoidance the most that tend to end up betraying their spouse or betraying their partner. And so I'm going to focus on that today, and I'm going to do it from the perspective of men because there's something else I want to tie into this. So just know that a lot of what I'm going to say in this is going to feel counterintuitive, but there are reasons that I'm telling you this. So if you are trying to repair, okay, one of the things that is going to be counterintuitive is that you need to actually speak up for yourself and what's going on with you, and actually be able to sometimes reject things that your spouse is throwing at you. And here's why. Let me start by saying that if you broke your marriage and you created destruction and wreaked havoc because you decided to step out on your partner, you are 100% responsible for repair, and their repair, their feelings, their emotions, their bleeding comes first. So in the beginning, any feelings, any struggles, any stress that you are having with needs to go to the back burner, and you need to show up for them first. The person who is bleeding out the worst is the person who needs the most attention, but it cannot stay that way. And so what happens is eventually, a lot of times, if we have an avoidant man who has betrayed his partner, and I see this in multiple ways. I deal a lot with affairs, infidelity. I also deal with a lot of pornography, chat rooms, all of those things. So whatever your betrayal may be, they're usually with an anxious partner. Anxious partners, particularly after betrayal, and rightfully so, tend to be very reactive, and they can be really mean, and they're just living in pain. They're dysregulated. Their brain chemistry and neurotransmitters are all messed up. Their brain is structurally different. So they can be very overreactive and really have a lot of pain and need you a lot. And so when you see your partner in this much pain, a lot of the men that I work with tend to get to this place where they're essentially like, well, I can't speak to anything that's going on with me, and I just have to take it. And essentially they buy into this belief that I no longer have any rights in the relationship. Relationships do not work that way. If you are going to become safer for your partner, you have to have rights in your relationship. And this is what I mean. They believe that after they have done the bad thing, that they have to just sit there and take it. They have to take character attacks, that they have to take accusations that are not true, that they're essentially not to say anything, and they just have to take it. And sometimes that can end up being fairly abusive, and that doesn't help the relationship. That doesn't help the relationship grow. It does not create safety. It does not rebuild trust. So one of the things that I'm going to ask you to do is counterintuitive if you're in this situation. I'm going to ask you to actually speak up to what's going on for you. So here's the thing. When you are doing the thing that you are doing, and no judgment here, we are all broken, sinful people. And even though we are all broken, sinful people and flawed people, that does not mean that if we are committed to the repair and committed to repentance and committed to doing our walk better with God and committed to our relationship and becoming a new person in Christ, it does not mean that we are undeserving of our marriage. Like, maybe you don't deserve your marriage because you did stuff that was so terrible that it sabotaged it. But if God works in your partner's heart and your partner is still there, then there is something that you need to do with that marriage. So stop telling yourself that you don't have any rights, because that will not strengthen your marriage and it will not create safety for your partner. So when you were doing the thing that you were doing, when you were deceiving, when you were lying, when you were being sneaky, when you were doing all of these things, your partner learned about it and then has this perception now that you are not who you say you are, and they do not know you. So in order for you to create safety and trust, they have to start to know you, which means that you have to get to know you. So most of the men that I work with are avoidant. They don't know their needs, their desires, their wants, what feels good to them. They cannot sit in the emotional space and the emotional discomfort to figure out those things. That is a key part of the work that I do with my avoidant men that have stepped out in this way. They have to be able to grow in their emotional awareness of themselves so that they can show up and hold space for their partner emotionally. So what that means is that you have to start speaking to what is happening to you emotionally and start telling your partner what is going on with you. Your partner does not feel like they know you at all. You're a complete stranger. They've been laying next to an enemy in their bed for a long time, and they are literally trying to figure out what is true about you, what is not true about who you are, what's true about the past. So you have to start speaking up. When a boundary has been crossed, when something feels bad to you, when something feels unfair to you, when you are feeling sad about your partner's pain, you have to put words to it. You have to make space for their pain first, but you have to tell them your stuff too, because they need to get to know you. If you are doing that, you're becoming transparent, vulnerable, honest. You're giving them insights into who you are. You're opening a door, pulling up a window, and letting them fully see you in your true, authentic self, something that they probably have never seen before you actually did the thing that you did, because you were leaning more avoidant and suppressing and pushing who you were away because you didn't want to be seen. Now you need to do the opposite. And so when you actually show up with your true, authentic self and start speaking up and letting them know your boundaries, letting them know what feels good to you, letting them know what doesn't, even if they do not love having to hear what you have to say, it does show them who you are. It does let them in to see the real you. You cannot build safety and trust and intimacy without letting them see who you really are at your core. The other thing that I would say is those boundaries are so important. You cannot take abuse from your partner, whether it's verbal, emotional, whatever. Yes, they are in pain. Yes, it is your job to sit in them with their pain and to take accountability for what you did and fully repair it and do all of the repair work. But at the same time, most of the women that I work with and most of the men that I work with will tell me the woman wants a man who is a good, strong leader, and they don't feel safe without that. And the men will a lot of times also, I work with a lot of Christian men. Not everybody is in that. I do a complete scientific program as well for people who just want the science, and I never push my beliefs on anyone else. But if you are a Christian man and you are struggling with how to lead, this is a key part of it. You cannot lead if you do not know yourself. What direction are you going to take your family in if you do not know your goals, what's important to you, what your values are, what your beliefs are, how you feel about things? If you have never, ever learned emotional awareness, nervous system work, learn to interpret your own thoughts and figure out what's going on with you at the subconscious level, you have no idea what direction you even want to lead your family in. So here's the other piece to that. If you are actually going to be a leader, you have to put down boundaries. If you have betrayed your partner, no woman feels safe with a man that has no boundaries, because your lack of boundaries has gotten you into this situation. So if you actually want to prove to your woman that you're becoming safer, that you are solid, that you can actually put boundaries around your marriage, your relationship, other people that would try to tempt you, or situations that would be bad for you, and create safety for her, then you have to put boundaries starting in place with things that matter to you, your needs, your non-negotiables, things that are a problem for you. So you start by putting boundaries in place with her when she is being overreactive in a way that is abusive or verbally abusive or is not creating connection with the relationship. That does not mean that you do not validate her pain and sit in it with her, but you also put boundaries gently and loving kindness. And that's one of the things that I walk people through, down to the scripts on how you do this. Those boundaries will show her that you are becoming a safer man, because a man without boundaries will never feel safe to a woman who has been betrayed. So in order to do this, there is so much deep subconscious work that we have to do at a subconscious level to be able to heal wounds, to be able to step into these spaces. And that's a big part of what I do in my coaching. It's a big part of what I do in my one-on-one coaching for attachment, as well as men that have betrayed their spouse in any way. So again, this sounds very, very counterintuitive, but I promise you it is a big piece for you actually developing safety and trust within your partner. Your partner will never feel like you can refuse or turn down temptation from another woman if you have stepped out on her or done something like this, or maybe it's pornography. She will never feel safer until she actually experiences you being able to put boundaries in place and you holding tight to your beliefs, because you've actually taken the time to figure out what they are and to get to know who you are, and then show her who you are with vulnerability, transparency, and not hiding those things and just taking whatever she throws at you. If you were just sitting there taking it and not expressing what's really happening for you, or the pain that you're having as you're repairing from the betrayal, because it's a trauma for you too, then you are not showing up your true, authentic, safe self, and you're not letting her see who you are. And remember, for so long in her mind, she does not believe that she has known who you are. If this makes any sense to you and you've never looked at it in this light before, then put something in the comments.